life was amazing. And then 5 years ago, the publishing world closed its doors on me, as it did for many of us, with the fall of one of the biggest American publishing companies, Time Inc. When the company went under, I knew I was done. Immediately, I shut down my furniture and lighting studio as a barrage of questions began to race through my head, realizing I had no idea who I would be going forward, how I would make a living, where any of this would take place. Could I even remain in New York at this point? The unknown was so systemic and in every part of my life, it was terrifying. I knew I was tired of working and living two lives, one life as a sustainable furniture designer and the other as a highly skilled media art director. I knew whatever I did going forward, I needed it to be a fusion of all the things I loved, because this double life wasn't working anymore. Now, most of us saw the end coming in publishing. All of us over a certain age anyway. And my first attempt at new direction came before the crash of Time Inc. with my TV pilot, Refitting the Planet. Now, that went amazing. It really went amazing. The night of the first screening, I landed an agent. Within a month, we were talking very seriously to production companies. One began to talk about test shooting and exactly where they saw my show potentially sitting, and contract discussions began. Yay. Well, not so fast. Turns out that my furniture company had to be financially sustainable by itself, or production companies wouldn't even consider pitching me. My first brilliant new direction, and I was dead in the water, since it was my publishing and media work that was the driving financial support of the studio. Fuck. Well, I had to develop something, and next was an idea about building my own media network to turn up the volume and the voice of American artists, moving on a belief that the arts is a part of a healthy society in more ways than I can mention here in 5 minutes. A belief I formed as co-founder and creative director of the Dumbo Art Center years before. I somehow knew this should be a part of this process for me. I think maybe part of me wanted to reach out and do more in the world. And so my experiment for this was a venture into a stripped-down content creation, and the first time the name Refit or Die became the platform for my creative universe. Now, again, real life, I was still in free fall without a parachute, having sold it to make a TV pilot that was never going to get signed, and I was honestly fighting off panic by hyper-focusing on developing this work pretty much 7 days a week. But when, inevitably, I hit the ground, I ended up on welfare, filing bankruptcy, and back in Pittsburgh in my mother's basement at the age of 50 with my partner and my dog. I was the social media joke at the time, a 50-year-old back home with mom. Yeah, that was me. Now, again, keeping optimistic was becoming more work, but it required that I really focus on opportunities ahead, regardless of how dire things were. I was in Pittsburgh, so the city of Pittsburgh became that focus as I lined up meetings with people from the mayor's office to so many organizations and businesses that were shockingly, so amazingly in a singular mission of driving more small industry into their beloved home. Additionally, the empty buildings and hulking remnants as I began to drive around Pittsburgh, and all these signs of what was a once vibrant industry in the entire area was sparking my repurposing brain tissue. Pittsburgh became the catalyst of the first seismic change in my work in decades, with a driving desire to significantly increase the scale of my creations and use the entire city as my canvas. But again, as my ideas grew for using these empty buildings and larger remnants, and as I got excited, so did the price tag. The price tags on all this stuff were just becoming so big they were impossible. And then one random night, Eddie and I were watching The Kingsman, and there was a scene where The Kingsman's director was sitting in an empty conference room and put on his glasses to reveal every seat was occupied by a holographic image of his team all wearing the same glasses. Shit. Augmented reality? Oh my God, augmented reality. So I began researching and reading as much as I could and digesting this whole potential I discovered this new augmented reality thing was being called the fourth wave of technology, and anticipation for it is tremendous. Even Apple and Facebook are investing heavily, as are multitudes of others, myself included, who are all scrambling to be a part of this coming wave. This was going to mean a total redesign of the entire human world. I was immediately thrilled. Now, though I swore once that I would never learn code, I'm doing that, as well as training in three-dimensional design, digital design, app design, started to put my accelerated ideas to the test by creating concept projects, and that's where we are today. REFITORDIE.com is the platform for these concept projects, and they're helping light my way. And the moment I incorporated artificial intelligence as an active player in these projects, oh my God, it was like entirely different parts of me as a designer were having a chemical reaction, along with my childhood and just life itself. And this chemical reaction began to manifest finally my singular vision forward. Refit or Die is the result of what happened when that chemical reaction began to accelerate into one singular point of view. And it's also my life story. It's what I faced and the mountain I climbed, the mountain I continue to scale, though I've managed to get out of mom's basement and become a professor of practice at Penn State University, developing research on ways we can use augmented reality and artificial intelligence to help mend some of the polarized fractures that are currently derailing our nation. And how can we take some of the poison out of social media that it cannot continue to affect the human population around the planet in the harmful ways it is? Refit or Die is now my mission, because in case you're not paying attention, the entire human race needs to refit or die, honestly. It's not the planet that's in trouble, it's us.